Our azaleas have been in our front bed for almost 20 years and once all bloomed together and profusely, but that's not the case anymore. The far left bush hasn't bloomed in a few years, but is always the most brilliant green of them all. The pink bush seems healthy. The middle bush looks mostly dead but has several white buds, as well as several large white blossoms at the very bottom of the bush. And the white bush on the far right is overflowing with blossoms. So what's going on with our azaleas?
Okay.
This is Doug and Gigi in Bartlett, Tennessee. So it's a lot there, right?
Yes, yes. So there's a lot of stuff going on right there with that. But overall, with some of those with some of those more up close pictures that they showed us, I could, even though it wasn't focused in on those particular leaves, I could tell that there was feeding damage from an insect that's called the azalea lace bug.
I'm with you.
And if this is left unchecked, it can defoliate, your azaleas over time if we have several years of this feeding happening. Now, it appears that the feeding was heaviest on the middle shrub. And you might say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why is it only feeding on this one and not the other two? I will say that they're attracted to shrubs that are under stress. They send out pheromones that say, I'm not doing well, and then the insects come and impact things. So
Good point.
maybe that shrub was already on the decline. Maybe there was an issue with pH. Azaleas prefer to have acidic pHs, and if they're not in that zone, that could be stressful for them. So whatever that was, that is what is called that defoliation. Now we see the new growth at the base of the plant,
at the bottom,
and that's because now light is able to penetrate that canopy.
I was gonna mention that. Good.
And so they've put up new growth. And we see that a lot with lots of different types of woody plants. Once you prune back some of that material, it may look strange and twiggy and sticky for a while, but it actually encourages new growth to come out on some of that older wood. So I think that's what we're seeing there with the azalea. I would recommend treating it with a systemic insecticide. To try to get the lace bug under control. I would treat all three.
I would too.
Because now that they have feasted on the leaves of the one in the middle, they will probably go
venture out a little bit.
Yeah, expand their feeding area. But those were the main things that stood out to me. I didn't see any signs of, iron deficiency.
No, I didn't see that either.
Or anything like that, which is kind of common-ish with azaleas. When that pH range isn't right, it can't take up the iron that it needs. And then we get strange like chlorosis, but the veins are still green. It looks pretty strange,
Yeah, and like you mentioned before, the light conditions seem to be conducive to growing those azaleas. Right, so we're not concerned about that, but azalea lace bugs, y'all do a lot of damage. And I'm glad you stressed the point of plant stress.
Yes.
Right, because again, if those plants are stressed, and they send out those pheromones, right? And some plants actually send up, those, volatile compounds, right? That insects can, smell,
they're attracted
sniff
to,
out, and they go right to it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I think that
Plants
is
are
crazy.
so smart.
I think that's pretty cool, huh? Yeah. So, all right, Doug and Gigi, I think we have your culprit there, right?
Yes.
All right. So, we make sure we get those lace bugs under control. You'll be fine.
Things should improve.
Things should improve.
Don't pull out the middle shrub. You might have to put up with some strange proportions for a year or two, but I think that'll come back out of it.
Thanks for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed. To subscribe, click below.